All right, this weekend, let's get into the big pay-per-view over on Showtime. Gervonta Davis, Hector Luis Garcia. This fight almost didn't happen. There was a real serious incident that occurred with Tank Davis and the mother of his child. After Christmas, I think there was an argument between Davis and the mother. According to police, he struck her, causing an abrasion on her lip. There was a 911 call where she said that he was trying to kill her. I listened to it. I think a lot of people listened to it. It sounded pretty bad. Tank obviously has a past. We know this. Domestic violence. There's video of him at that basketball game. He's also awaiting trial in February for a hit and run where he struck a car in his Lamborghini. There was a pregnant woman in the car. He fled the scene. 3 of the people in the car settled with him out of court. The pregnant woman said, "No, I'm taking him to court." That's in February. There's a very good chance he could be locked up for a year. We'll learn about that in February. But all in all, the mother of his child changed the story. Said Gervonta did not harm her. Call was placed. She said a call was placed in a frantic moment. Fight is going on. Showtime found enough evidence there to have the fight go on. And I know Showtime takes these things very seriously. They've canceled fights in the past, most notably Rolly Romero. And Chris, a lot of media members rushed to judgment. Some that we know, some dedicated full podcast articles with the impression that Davis was guilty. I didn't put any statements out there. No, you didn't either. Wait till you get all the evidence in there. We'll never know. We're never going to know what really happened, but what we do know is the fight's going on, and people that watch this show don't tune in to hear our thoughts on these types of things, which are important. They come to hear our thoughts on the fight, but we're getting a fight this weekend with Tank, but that was definitely a big story for a bunch of days.
Yeah, I did not think this fight was going to happen, honestly, just because of everything that was going on and some of the statements that Tank was putting out there. But
Messy.
We still got the fight, and it's a good fight, so let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the fight because that whole topic was broken down ad nauseum. So Tank's fighting. I like watching Tank fight. I know you do too. This is a real test for him. I know that Luis Hector Garcia is a 130-pound champion. You got to mention that as well. But not like Tank is a big guy. So whenever I hear he's Hector Luis Garcia is moving up in weight, he's fighting a smaller guy. No. Like Tank isn't that big. So I have no problem with him fighting a 130-pounder because that's honestly where Tank should fight. I think he's fighting above his natural weight. Where should we start? I guess we'll start with Hector, with Luis Hector Garcia before we get to Tank. Unconventional rise to where he is. A lot of his fights were in the Dominican Republic. Didn't really see much of him. And then he burst on the scene in a very big way where he stepped in on short notice to fight Chris Colbert. And not only did he beat Chris Colbert, he made – I'd never seen this before – Chris Colbert running in that fight. Running to the finish line, not running to win, running not to get sparked out and lose. That was his big coming out party for Luis Garcia. And then he followed it up with a big win over Roger Gutierrez. This guy deserves it. He deserves a spot. He's a very active puncher, throws around – I think it's 60 punches around. We'll see if he keeps that volume up against the best counterpuncher in boxing. But you got to tip your hat to Luis Garcia. This guy had an opportunity, had 2 opportunities in last year, probably the breakout fight of the year. Now he's fighting Tank in the first big pay-per-view of the year. So hats off to Luis Garcia, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very surprising what he was able to do with Colbert. He was normally a very, very good defensive fighter. He dropped him. He like you said, he had him trying to get to the finish line. And, very, very impressive. And he comes back with a good win over Roger Gutierrez. And here we are with Davis. Davis is an entirely different animal than the rest of these guys. So we'll see how he handles that. And I agree. The size thing, Gervonta, he's that good. We talked about the women and how they can move different weight classes. It's because of power. Tank has power. He's knocked out 40-pounders. He knocked out Mario Barrios. He dropped him 2-3 times in that fight. He went up to 47 after that. So he's got power, so he can move like that. But really, he's really a 130-pounder. He's a small guy. He just packs such a punch, and he's able to knock these guys out. It's surprising that it's like, oh, he's fighting a 30-pounder. Well, he's a 30-pounder. It's just that he hits that hard.
Yeah.
But with Garcia, I mean, he's got a kind of a traditional stance and style. he's a good boxer. He's not a huge puncher. I don't know if it's really going to be a power thing with Tank. Tank generally walks through guys' power anyway, but he's going to have to box, and he's got to box real smart and stay away from that big left hand.
Yeah, Garcia throws 56 punches per round. That's right around the 135-pound average. That's over his last 3 fights. A little bit of a headhunter. Garcia is only 13% of his landed punches are to the body, where Davis is 33%, which was really good. He's gonna have to figure out a way to. This is what every Tank opponent has to figure out how to do: is jab, stay out of the way of those power shots, but still score yourself. Which I didn't expect Rolly to do, but that fight was a fencing match, Rolly and Tank, where I think Tank averaged like less than 20 punches around, and Rolly was like just around there too. Like they were afraid to, Rolly was afraid to engage, but you gotta like kind of do what Leo Santa Cruz did. You have to like attack Tank, and obviously keep that in the back of your mind, like I might get knocked out, but you're not gonna win just sitting there staring at him, waiting, winning that type of fight. I think that Garcia's got to go for it. Throw those 55 to 60 punches around. What's the path for victory for Hector Garcia?
Well, you mentioned Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz, he boxed well in that fight. He landed some big shots. I think Santa Cruz was expecting to be able to hurt Tank. Tank was walking through those shots. Literally got hit right before the knockout, got hit with a big shot, and Santa Cruz threw the same punch. Boom,
3 times.
Rips that highlight rip. Yeah, that highlight uppercut. It was beautiful. A thing of beauty. Hector Garcia needs to box the way he boxes. He's got to not fall in love with being able to land clean on Tank, because sometimes he might land clean. Don't expect it. Don't look at it. Don't look at your work. Land the shot, keep moving, keep boxing, and stay off the ropes. Santa Cruz messed up there. He stayed on the ropes too long, through the right hand, got caught with that big uppercut. He's got to box smart. Honestly, he's got to, and not fall in love with the landed punches that he does catch Tank with, and just box. Be smart, stay away from the power.
It's gonna be a tough assignment for him. Tank's talking him up, which I like when an opponent does
12
that.
rounds, a long time.
Yeah, he's talking him up. He says he's hungry. He wants what I have. Let's go over to Tank. One of my favorite fighters to watch. And some interesting numbers on Tank, Chris. I think you'll get a kick out of this. Over his last 11 fights, Tank is averaging 34 punches thrown around. It is the lowest in all of boxing among championship caliber fighters. But 93% knockout rate, which is third in all of boxing among active fighters. 47.1 power connect rate, second behind Lomachenko. Anyone that watches Tank fight knows this to be true. He walks a tightrope. I call it that Canelo style. Jermell Charlo does the same thing. Low output, high accuracy, game-changing power. I think it's awesome to watch because it's waiting for that bomb to get detonated. But there's a flip side to it. You're giving away rounds. He gave away rounds, not so much against Rolly, but he gave away rounds against Santa Cruz. He gave away rounds against Barrios. Not because he's getting outboxed, simply not throwing punches, waiting for that moment where his opponent slips up. How much longer can Tank Davis walk that tightrope?
Yeah, and that's what I mean with Hector Garcia. His path to victory is to throw and take advantage of those lapses, and Tank's looking to just detonate that bomb. He's wading through. He's walking through punches. He wants to get to that position where he can land that big power shot. Like you said, I mean, those numbers are ridiculous. The fact that he is so inactive, but his knockout percentage is that high because he's waiting on that big shot. He's looking for that perfect opportunity. And Garcia just needs to keep moving and not be there to get hit with that bomb, with that detonation.
But what do you think of that style from Tank? Was that something you would like? I feel like it's not something a trainer would teach.
No.
It only works for a certain amount of fighters. Like, I think a Devin Haney could give him issues because we've yet to see someone put a consistent jab in Tank's face. Shakur can give him issues because of his jab too and his length. It's interesting. Like, I obviously it's awesome to watch, and I think it's such an incredible stat. But how is that sustainable against the higher echelon type of fighters, which I think that Tank has no choice but to go for after this fight?
I don't like how much Tank gets hit. He gets hit clean. I don't know how sustainable that is. He's so in love with that power, and he trusts his power. that he's willing to take a shot to give a shot. I don't love that style of boxing. It makes for hell of a fights, though. That's why it's one of the reasons I like watching him so much. And he always goes for the knockout. Like you said, it's not something that your coach is necessarily going to teach you how to fight that way. He might show you certain things, but he's chosen to make that his style. Where he's like, I'm going to get you, and when I get you, you're going away. So he's got that mentality. He really does believe in that power. So it makes for fun. Even for a guy who doesn't throw a lot of punches, it's fun to watch. I normally like guys who are really busy and throw combinations. Tank's not one of those guys, but he brings power. He hurts guys. He's very technically sound when he does do things. It looks really good when he does what he's doing. But yeah, with the other guys in the division, like you mentioned, Shakur's tough because you can't hit him. So if you don't throw that much, and you can't hit the guy, you can't knock out what you can't hit. And with Haney's so busy. He's so long. He boxes. That's the style that I think Hector Garcia needs to employ in order to win this fight. That would be a really tough fight as well. But he's got that fight-changing power. And I've said it before on podcasts, it's not always the one punch that knocks you out that changes the fight. It could be the punch that hurts you early on or lets you know, like, oh, man, this guy's dangerous, changes the outcome of the fight because now I got to change my style because I can't get hit with that shot again. I've had guys throw hooks past my face that missed, and I was like, nope, can't get hit with that. That was way too fast, way too hard. I got to be smart, and I got to box a certain way now. So he has that game-changing power, and he believes in it as he should. It hasn't let him down.
Especially too, like his body attack, I think is really impressive. Especially being 5'5.5", which he's listed at. Like he's going to be the shorter guy. He's going to be the shorter guy against Garcia by a long shot. He's going to be the shorter guy against Haney. Going to be the shorter guy against Shakur. I think he's the shorter guy in this fight. You better have a good body attack. It's like what we see with Canelo when he fights these 6 foot and taller guys as Canelo just hammers to the body. So that's one thing from Tank, that he kind of changes up his output. When he does throw, he does go to the body. And like we're talking about him giving away rounds and this, that, and the other, but I do commend him for the Isaac Cruz when he did hurt his hand. He practically won the fight with one hand boxing. So I do think he has that boxing ability.
Yep.
I do think he can 100%. He can jab, and like he could change it up. I think he's that talented. It's going to be interesting as he heads up bigger competition, if he increases that volume, if he can get away with walking that tightrope, which we saw Canelo like not be able to do. Like his power kind of went away, and he fought bigger guys, and that doesn't work all the time. But the guy that he will be fighting next, we think, is Ryan Garcia. I hope that Ryan Garcia would be in attendance. I hope that there's some type of announcement after. But Ryan Garcia is a tall opponent. Like he doesn't have the best jab. We've talked about his jab on this show, but I just see Ryan Garcia just using it as a rangefinder and keeping it out there and like keeping like Tank away. But I don't want to look too far ahead to the Ryan Garcia fight. But that's what's next for Tank if everything comes through in April. I think April 15th. That's a big one.
Yeah, you talked about, when he fights guys at different sizes, guys who are taller, he goes to the body attack. That reminds me of the Mario Barrios fight. I mean, Tank was ripping the body shot. Actually dropped Barrios with a body shot. And he's another guy. He probably, in terms of stature, he's got to be the same size as Ryan. I would think they're probably the same height. 5'9", 5'10", long, long body type. And Tank was able to break him down, especially the body. And like you said, like with Ryan, not a big jabber, but his hook is so fast. He has such tremendous speed. And the left hook versus a southpaw is a very good weapon. So it's an interesting matchup based on styles and attributes of Ryan, his physical attributes and his speed, and then also Tank in terms of his style and his stance. That's a really fun fight for me. When I go down to study that fight and I really look at them technically and I put those things together, that's gonna be a really fun fight to analyze, and hopefully it'll be a fun fight if it happens.
Yeah. The trial. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about that. I mean, there's a good chance that he does get into some type of legal behind bars or some type of home confinement from the hit and run. But there is precedent for this, and it's his former promoter, Floyd Mayweather. I'm sure you remember this. Before he fought Cotto, there he received a sentence from the judge. Judge said, yes, you can fight Cotto. After it, you got to spend 90 days in jail. And he had to do that. I mean, there is precedent for this. Like, I could see that happening again for Tank. And like we said, we're not legal experts. We're not going to talk about these types of things. But like, there is a way around that happening, and where the Tank Ryan fight happens in April. Tank has his legal issues and figure that out. He fights in January, gets the big payday. Fights in April, gets the big payday. It's things that you have to talk about when you are in the boxing world. Interesting. One of the lights just went out in the studio. Does that mean we should wrap it up?
My lights are good.
We got one light out, but we still have this one hovering over me. I do want to talk about Boots, though. We'll talk Boots quickly. Boots Ennis is fighting on this card. Karen Chuhadzian, who was rated 4th in the IBF. The reason that Boots is fighting Karen Chuhadzian is because he's the highest rated welterweight in the IBF. Ortiz, I think, is rated higher, but he's fighting Stanionis. So Ennis has been playing that. He's been playing that game. He's been playing this game, waiting patiently. His last fight with Castillo Clayton was titled an eliminator. Now this is titled an IBF interim title fight. And I know no one likes to follow those things, but the winner of this fight would be in a position to induce one of the two scenarios. Force Spence Crawford winner to fight him, or fight for the full IBF title if the winner opts to vacate, which both of those situations can happen. We know this from Boots. We want him to fight better competition. It's not that easy getting these guys in the ring with him, so therefore he has to fight the Karens of the world, the Castillo Claytons, and play that game until we figure out what the hell is going on with Spence and Crawford. That's just the name of the game for Boots.
Yeah, I saw a statement that he put out there. He said, I think that Spence will fight me, and that fight will happen down the line. But I got to get past these guys, and I like that. I like when these guys stay busy. He's young. There's no reason to stay out of the ring and wait for those guys who are at the top. He's going to get there. Might as well stay busy and keep knocking these guys out. But we glossed over Stanionis and Virgil Ortiz because we're going to cover that in later shows. But man, I'm excited about that group right there. That group of young welterweights. You got Boots, you got Virgil Ortiz, you got Stanionis, and they're fighting. So that's a good thing. But potentially, once that fight clears, the Stanionis and Virgil Ortiz, and we have a clear winner, makes sense to me that they get Boots. And then that guy then moves up to that upper echelon where he can fight an Errol Spence or a Terrence Crawford, That's old school. That's the way it goes. You beat the guy to beat the guy, and then you get the shot.
Yeah, we talked about puzzle.
Yeah,
we talked about puzzle pieces before. Like the welterweight division is a freaking mess. And obviously, the biggest pieces of that puzzle are Spence and Crawford. If they somehow come to an agreement and they fight, I wouldn't be shocked if they fight 2 times. They could fight 3 times. That leaves guys like Boots out in the cold. That leaves guys like Virgil Ortiz out in the cold. So it would make sense for Boots to fight Ortiz. That would be awesome. That's something we'll have to worry about and talk about if that does happen. But I think 2023. What'd you say?
I said we're many parts away from that.
We're many pieces of that, but there's a big pile of puzzle pieces, and that's in that pile somewhere. And it comes to welterweight. And I tweeted out on New Year's Day 5 things I want to see happen in 2023, and at the top was welterweight clarity, movement. We can't have another year of Spence fighting once, Crawford fighting once, Boots waiting, Virgil Ortiz waiting. This is one of the best divisions in boxing, so let's see some movement. So that's that. That is the pay-per-view on Showtime. We'll have a show on Monday reviewing it all. We talked about Andrade before. He's on the card. Rashidi Ellis is on the card. Brandon Lee buried on the card. I'd like to know what his plan is. He's a really hard-hitting 140-pounder. First big one of the year. I'll be tuned in, working for CompuBox. Follow along with Chris. Should be a good one, Chris. What do you got planned for the weekend?
Nothing. That's the only thing I got. I'm going to be watching the fights, hanging out, chilling. The last couple weekends with the holidays, I'm happy they're in the rear view, and I can just kind of chill this weekend. And before January picks up, and I got a lot of traveling coming up for fights. So.
And we have some fun things coming your way. Always like and subscribe over on Inside Boxing Live YouTube page. We have our boxing combine coming out in the next few weeks. Some other fun content we're going to be putting there. These shows live there, breakdowns, all that and more. Yeah, man, I'm excited to kick off this year. First show of 2023 in the books. As always, protect yourselves at all times. Keep your hands up. Stay out of those DMs.